A trainer forced a black woman to fight 30 seconds. Later, he was knocked out cold was the kind of headline people only saw after everything went wrong. But the real story began long before the camera phones came out. Long before the gym crowd gathered close. Long before the trainer's arrogant voice echoed across the mats. Because on that particular afternoon in a gritty MMA gym in Dallas, Texas, a gym that smelled of sweat, disinfectant, ego, and ambition, a place where fighters from broken homes, cushy suburbs, and hard-won second chances came to test themselves, to hurt and be hurt, to become legends or cautionary tales. Something unusual walked through the doors, something that shifted the energy before anyone even recognized it. And that something was a quiet, reserved black woman named Amara Lewis, who stepped inside wearing simple sweatpants, a faded hoodie, and a duffel bag slung over her shoulder like someone who had been used to traveling alone, training alone, surviving alone. And when she signed the waiver at the front desk with calm, collected pen strokes, nobody paid attention. Not yet, because the gym was full of the usual noise. The smack of pads, the low thud of kicks hitting heavy bags, the shouts of trainers demanding more power, more speed, more blood, and above all more obedience, especially from the new people who didn't yet understand the hierarchy, a hierarchy enforced most aggressively by the head trainer, a man named Connor Briggs, a shredded, tattooed, loud-mouthed ex-welterweight who had built a cult-like following online by dominating beginners, humiliating them in sparring and posting the clips to social media with captions like, "Another rookie learns what real fighting looks like." Clips that racked up millions of views from people who loved violence as long as it wasn't directed at them. But the moment Connor saw Amara, he looked her up and down with a smirk. Not because she looked weak. No, in fact, she carried herself like someone who had been carved from discipline and storms. But because he assumed she was out of place, assumed she was here for cardio boxing or a free trial, assumed she wasn't a threat, assumed she wasn't a fighter, and that assumption would become the mistake that detonated his reputation. But for now, he simply leaned against the ring ropes and shouted across the gym, "Hey, new girl, you ever even throw a punch before?" His words cut through the air, earning snickers from a few wannabe fighters warming up nearby, yet Amara didn't look fazed. She lifted her gaze slowly, her eyes steady and unflinching, like she was analyzing the entire room at once. And she answered quietly, "I've trained before." That was all she said. But something in her tone made one of the amateur fighters, a kid named Mateo who had seen real fighters before, raise an eyebrow, though Connor wasn't paying attention to nuance. Instead, he barked, "Yeah? Trained where?" "Cardio kickboxing." "YouTube?" And the gym erupted with cheap laughter because people laughed when the strongest person in the room signaled it was acceptable, even if deep down they felt a flicker of discomfort. But Amara didn't flinch, didn't straighten her posture, didn't look threatened. She simply responded, "Overseas." Connor rolled his eyes dramatically and said, "Overseas? What? A little vacation Muay Thai class in Thailand." More laughter. But before Amara could respond, something happened. A subtle shift, barely noticeable. The way one of her hands flexed the slight tension in her shoulders. The way she stepped forward, not timidly, but with calm purpose, and she said, "I'm here to train." That's all. But Connor wasn't done. He never was, not with someone he thought he could bully for content. And so he hopped out of the ring, strutted across the mats with exaggerated swagger, and stood directly in front of her, towering over her just enough to signal dominance, and he said, "If you're really here to train, then get in the cage. Show me what you got." Everyone froze for a moment. Even the bags seemed to stop swinging. Mateo, who was putting on shin guards, muttered, "Bro, she just walked in." Chill. But Connor ignored him because the issue wasn't training, it was ego, and Amara, after a long breath, simply said, "I didn't come to fight anyone today." That should have been the end of it, but to a man like Connor, someone telling him no was the same as attacking his pride, and pride was the one thing he couldn't control. So he raised his voice louder, shouting, "What's the matter? Scared?" And that word, scared, stirred something in the room, a word weaponized for generations against people like Amara, a word used to diminish, dismiss, and provoke, and maybe Connor didn't know the weight of it. But he felt the effect instantly because the gym grew silent, watching her reaction, waiting for conflict. But instead of snapping back or stepping away, Amara let out a small, almost imperceptible exhale and said, "I'm not scared of you." Connor grinned viciously. "Then prove it." He clapped his hands twice, signaling everyone around to gather, and like moths to flame, the gym circled the mat. Phones already coming out because everyone knew Connor loved recording new victims. But what they didn't know was that they were about to record the most humiliating moment of his career. The moment that would go viral for all the wrong reasons. The moment that would turn him from feared trainer into a global meme. Amara stepped into the cage slowly, like she was stepping into something sacred, not because she feared injury, but because she respected fighting in a way Connor never had, and as she set down her bag outside the cage, the zipper accidentally came undone, for a moment revealing something inside, something wrapped carefully in cloth, and Mateo, who happened to be closest, saw it, and his eyes widened because what he glimpsed looked like a championship belt. But he convinced himself he must have imagined it, because why on earth would a woman like her walk into a random Dallas MMA gym with a championship belt hidden in her duffel bag? Meanwhile, Connor slipped on small sparring gloves and stepped inside, cracking his neck theatrically, pacing like a predator, and the camera zoomed in as someone shouted, "Yo, let's go live!" And just like that, thousands of viewers joined the stream within seconds. Expecting entertainment, expecting domination, expecting the usual Connor performance, but instead, they were about to witness something they would replay millions of times. Connor pointed at the ref, an unpaid volunteer, and said, "Just stay out of the way. This won't take long." Then he turned to Amara. "You ready?" She nodded once. No stance, no aggression, just a nod. And for a split second, just a split second, something flashed across her eyes. A memory, maybe a ring under bright lights. Crowds chanting her name, an opponent collapsing from a liver shot. But that flicker vanished as quickly as it appeared. Connor didn't notice. He charged right in. He always charged first, overwhelming beginners with brute force before they could even think. But the moment he stepped forward, Amara's entire presence changed. Her posture lowered, her breathing slowed, her eyes sharpened. And in that millisecond, Mateo realized something. She wasn't a beginner. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't confused. She was calculating. And Connor, unaware he was stepping into a trap crafted by years of elite training, swung a wide right hook meant to intimidate, not knock out. But Amara slipped it with effortless precision, pivoted to her left, and tapped his shoulder with the lightest touch, a warning touch. But Connor took it as disrespect and roared, "You think this is a game?" He lunged again, throwing a combination of wild strikes. But she weaved through them like someone who had danced with danger her entire life. And through every movement, her expression remained calm, almost bored, which only made Connor angrier, and anger made him sloppy, and sloppiness around someone like Amara was a recipe for disaster. The crowd started murmuring now, confused, interested, uneasy, and one of the fighters whispered, "Yo, she moves like a pro." But it was too late for Connor to recognize he had misjudged her. Too late to backpedal, because in the next 3 seconds, Amara saw her opening. Connor overextended on a left cross. His weight shifted wrong, his guard dropped, and without hesitation, she planted her feet, twisted her hips, and delivered a short, compact, brutally efficient right hook directly to his jaw. The kind of punch that didn't need wind-up, didn't need drama, didn't need power. Just perfect timing and perfect technique. And the moment it landed, the sound echoed like a clap of thunder across the gym. And Connor's body reacted before his brain did. His knees buckled, his arms dropped, and he collapsed face first onto the mat, unconscious before he even hit the floor. And the entire gym erupted. Not in cheers, but in gasps, because the knockout happened so fast, so clean, so devastatingly efficient that the live stream chat exploded. The camera shook. Someone screamed, "Holy and someone else yelled, "Bro, she killed him," but Amara simply stepped back, breathing steady, expression unchanged, like this was something she had done 1,000 times before, and maybe she had, because as Connor lay motionless, the ref rushing in, the fighters yelling for ice, the livestream comments flooding with, "Who is she?" Mateo finally spoke aloud, the question burning in his mind. "Yo, are you a pro?" And Amara, grabbing her duffel bag calmly as chaos erupted around her, answered quietly, "Not anymore." But that wasn't the end, not even close. That knockout would ignite a chain reaction of consequences, revelations, threats, and a return to a world she had sworn never to face again. A world full of rivals, betrayals, and ghosts. And though she didn't know it yet, the knockout wasn't her ending. It was the beginning.